Happy tax day, buddy. How's your birthday?
My rage knows no limits. I. Mm-mm. Founding Fathers, Boston Tea Party, it's all starting to really make sense.
Uh, so your brother was ordained on your birthday, and now it's tax day again. And
I. I. Ah!
mine's already cracked. I don't care.
Yeah, because you're lame.
Oh, you didn't even get a satisfying crack on it.
That
Kinda
burnt's
echelon.
good. I got
What kind
I got watermelon Thai chili.
Mm.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to the the What If We podcast. I almost said the other podcast name.
Andrew, don't tell them about the secret pod.
That's definitely what I was referring to. Definitely not the podcast that you and I are both listening to a ton now. Hi everyone. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Josh.
Today's episode
this
is sponsored by Echelon,
Liquid
and
Death.
neither of those are sponsors, but we would love it if they were. This is
Can I
this
just
is
say something about Liquid Death?
all right. Do
real
your
quick?
thing, and then we'll finish the intro.
I have been told by multiple students that I am a pagan for drinking Liquid Death.
Oh.
And I just want to point out, the Catholic Church has a great tradition of just having a skull on your desk. This is my version of that.
This is my version.
However-
This stuff is so
however,
good
I
it's
do-
banned in Canada.
I do disagree with one of their tea flavors.
Which one?
It's called Dead Billionaire.
Isn't that because based off of Arnold Palmer?
Andrew, it was released the week of the murder of the United Healthcare guy.
Well, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that one.
But it is, I think, based off of Palmer, yeah.
I think that's what it was supposed to be.
Which is funny.
Yeah, I've got Echelon. It's the military energy drink. It's got 300 milligrams of caffeine in it.
That's in my pre-workout, so, it's fine.
Yeah, it's so good it's banned in Canada. There's too much caffeine per liquid ounce. Anyway, this is the What If We podcast, where today we asked the question: what if we defunded the federal government?
What if we got rid of the federal government and the tax structure?
What if we burned the IRS to the ground? For legal reasons, that's a joke.
What do you think I sent in my tax return?
I'm sending mine in tomorrow. I still have to figure out what note I'm going to put in mine. I always put a note in it every year that I send it in that I owe
money. Where's all my money going, Jerry?
Before we get into this week's topic, how you been? It's so for context, it's the Monday of Holy Week that we're recording this
at 8:47 a.m.
Yep.
The earliest we've ever recorded an episode.
Yep, because we both have stuff to do this morning. Hence why there's no bush light for me.
What do you think is in the Liquid Death? Why do you think it was already cracked, Andrew?
No, I don't start day drinking till 9.
Monday is my day off.
Yeah, normally it is.
Well, no. So, just to give you a rundown of my week.
Yeah, you go through what you got going on.
Today, there's really nothing. Monday is kind of the calm before the storm. We had Palm Sunday yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Monday, as far as like what happened at St. John's, tonight, at approximately 9 p.m., we have a clandestine operation.
Oh.
To go and paint the rock. So every year, Catholic Spartans has painted Happy Holy Week onto the rock. So we've got that tonight, pizza immediately following. Tomorrow, we have Super Tuesday.
Okay.
So from about 11 until 2:30 or so, I'll be on campus handing out postcards for Holy Week, right? Telling people about our Holy Week stuff like that, out near the rock. After that, starting at 3, from 3 to 9 p.m., we have confessions.
Oh wow, that's a nice long block.
Yep. So I think all 3 of our priests will be there at different points, and then a couple other priests will be popping in and out.
Hmm.
And then on Wednesday, it's kind of another lull.
Yeah.
Spy Wednesday. I wish we did a Tenebrae service, but Thursday, we have Holy Thursday, right? So we have a Holy Thursday potluck before the Holy Thursday liturgy.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to try to, as soon as the Holy Thursday liturgy is over and I go for like the first part of adoration, I'm going to call Megan, pray night prayer. And then I'm going to go back to adoration and stay with Jesus until midnight. From Holy Thursday until Easter Vigil, I'm going to try to eat no foods.
Proud of you.
Good Friday happens. We have the Good Friday liturgy at 12, and then confessions until 3 p.m.
Hmm.
I'm going to go to a 6 a.m. morning retreat, silent sunrise retreat at the local retreat center right down the road from Papa. Friday night, Easter Vigil.
You Saturday night?
Saturday night will be Easter Vigil. Well, Friday night, nothing really happens.
Yeah.
Then we go into Saturday. Nothing really happens Saturday during the day. Saturday night, Easter Vigil. I'm in charge of the fire.
Wonder why.
um, really sad part though, it's just a gas like fire that like it's like one of
Yeah.
those patio fires, right? With like the little square patio fire thing. I was like, and we're doing it inside because they want to record the liturgy. And I'm just like, it's fine.
Whatever.
I wanted to do a big giant bonfire. And then we have the Easter Vigil reception afterwards. Some students are trying to plan like a resurrection party at someone's apartment. And then Sunday we have the Easter brunch.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to go to Megan's and die in peace.
Very nice.
What about you? What's on your docket this week?
Pretty similar. Tuesday we have the OCIA retreat. I may or may not be going to that. The only thing I'm supposed to be there for realistically is we have to get the catechumens sized for their Easter garments, but I'm doing half of them ahead of time, so I don't really. I think we can get the other 2 people sized by someone else because I really don't want to go. It's my birthday. I'd like to spend it at home. But we'll see. We'll see what
Really
happens with
just
that.
working that job. Really just.
I'm sorry. I do a lot of other prep work, and I've been working my butt off the past 2 weeks to get ready for everything else. Um, Wednesday, I'm subbing, helping Tony get a couple things done after school. Again, nothing too crazy. Thursday, that's when. So I've been trying to get the altar service schedule for Holy Week. Like, I sent out an email at the like middle of March saying, "Hey, I need to know who's going to be here for Easter and who's going to be here for Holy Week, so that way I can get it. I can make sure I plan for people who are going to be here." And I get a very minimal response. I have to like double up some people, like, "Hey, you're gonna work all 3 because you're gonna be here." And then I send out the schedule last week, like saying, "Hey, this is the final schedule because this is based on the responses that I got." And everyone's like, "Oh, I'm actually free." I'm like, tough. I don't need 7 servers for Good Friday liturgy. I have 3. I don't need more than 4. So that's a whole other can of worms. But so Thursday we have our Holy Thursday liturgy. We have the washing of the feet and everything. Interesting thing for us this year, we don't have a garden of repose because the guidelines for Holy Week say if because of like family parishes and parishes like that are working together, if the parish that you are having Holy Thursday at is not the same as the parish you are having your Good Friday liturgy, you are not supposed to have a procession in a garden of repose.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so at St. John, 7 o'clock, we have our Holy Thursday. 2 o'clock on St. Friday is on Friday, Holy Friday, on Good Friday is at St. Mary, because the idea is the procession is like, putting Jesus where he's going to be for the Good Friday liturgy. He's not going to be there though, because we're not doing it at St. John's. So I guess Wednesday, the only difference is at the 12 o'clock mass, they're consecrating all the hosts for Good Friday at St. Mary. They're doing them in advance, basically. Just following, it's a weird guideline thing we found, which works out for me because last year we had the procession for Holy Thursday and it was a disaster because they had the altar servers go first, then expected all the people to follow, and the father was supposed to be at the back with the Eucharist, and no one actually understood that's what.
Yeah, no, I was there for that. I was there for that. That was awful.
Yeah, it was a whole mess. This year I don't have to worry about it. So I just have basically, it's for the altar service perspective, pretty standard mass. So yeah, we have stations at noon and 7 on Good Friday, and they're like, we have like a musical group coming in doing it, like they're supposed to be very good. They're doing it like, it's like through the perspective of Mary.
Nice.
I'm gonna go to at least one of them, probably the noon. I get to help carry the cross for veneration at Good Friday with 4 other guys because it weighs about 300 pounds.
That's what you've been training for.
That's do you even lift, bro? I'm trying, Lord. And then, yeah, we got Easter Vigil on Saturday. That's gonna be a whole production as it usually is. There's a decent chance that I will have to jump in to serve. We'll see. And then, yeah, so we have 13 people joining the church, which I'm really excited for. And then Sunday, we're spending the night Saturday to Sunday with my parents, then going to grandma's for Easter. It's my family's turn this year.
Yeah. So, I was
pretty full.
So you said something about the liturgy with like the procession, right? So St. John's and St. Thomas are technically considered one parish with 2 different locations, canonically speaking. So we're processing from St. John's to St. Thomas, which is only like a mile away.
Yeah, it's about the same for St. Mary and St. John.
And then we're posing at St. Thomas. And I think there's a Good Friday liturgy still at St. John's and one at St. Thomas.
The guidelines are for the AOD. I don't know if it expands to Lansing for you guys. The reason being because we have the family of parishes and like
that's what I was thinking.
There's a lot more joint liturgy, and it makes sense as far as like, okay, the idea is the Garden of Repose is where Jesus is going to be held, and he's going to, like, it's just an easy transfer. But no, it's not going to be the case for us. So rather than us do a procession all the way to St. Mary through the busy streets of Monroe, downtown in the middle of the night when there's we're going to have 300 people following, they just want us to do them separately like that, which I guess makes sense.
This does make sense. So very cool. Yeah, what else do you have going on in your part of the world and life? And
I got my ham radio license. I am now officially an amateur technician ham radio user.
How much did that cost you?
$25.
You're supposed to say everything.
No, it cost me $25 and my dignity. But it was fun.
Exactly. That's all you have.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, it was me and 2 other guys. One of them had to do it for work, and the other one was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll do it." We just showed up, did a bunch of practice tests. Then we showed up. The guy gave the exam. Picture an older guy who like does ham radio. Do not deviate from that in the slightest. That was our instructor. Cool guy though. He taught us a lot. I already knew a lot from doing my studying, but he kind of like gave understanding of the knowledge, because otherwise it's just memorization. I passed. It took me like 5 minutes to take the test. And then he's like, "Do you want to take the general exam? It's free right now if you want to take it." I said, "Sure, why not?" I looked at it and I said, "This was a mistake." And I got 14 out of 35.
What's the general exam for? What does that get you?
So basically the technician gives you a very narrow width of, you can do most, without going too technical, you can do most very and ultra high frequencies. Basically anything above 30 megahertz, you have pretty much free reign. There's some specific channels you can't use. General and then there's like very, very narrow bandwidth of just the high frequency, the 30 to 35, the 3 to 30 megahertz. General gets you access to pretty much all of them. And then,
so are you allowed to broadcast on those channels?
No, that's broadcasting is for professional radio. Basically, you can only broadcast as any type of amateur in the event of an emergency or for testing purposes, like for practice. but you pretty much can't actually broadcast. There's very strict FCC regulations on that. Basically, being broadcast being one-way communications.
So you could do a two-way call with someone on the ham
absolutely.
radio.
That's the whole point of it. Yeah, but broadcasting by its technical definition is just one-way communication for advertisement or just speaking things. Like I can't have my own radio show as a ham radio as an amateur guy. Like because it's basically tying up a bandwidth, so it has to be intended for. The most broadcasting I can do is saying CQ, basically like looking for someone to talk to. That's the extent of my one-way communications. I can broadcast that kind of thing, and then once someone responds, then it no longer becomes broadcast.
So basically, you get the version of the old-timey chat rooms with the creepy old men looking for a 15-year-old woman to talk to.
Pretty much. Oh, contest is the other thing. There's a contest like next week. Basically, you try to contact as many people as you can in different counties and different states. So like Michigan is hosting one next week, I guess. So the idea is you get a point for every person you talk to, and that point is multiplied for every county and state that you talk to. So if I talk to two guys in 20 counties, I talk to two guys and I get contacts in 20 counties. So those would be by a factor of 20, and then I get another state that would double it.
So what do you get for winning the contest?
It's literally the way that the guy described ham is like the whole point of ham radio is to do things because they are difficult, because we don't need, but by and large, we don't need amateur radio anymore. We have cell phones and we have easy way, but it's to see if you can do it. Like technically speaking, I can now talk to the people on the International Space Station. I have that my license does allow for that because it's a public radio band. So, but he's like, but you got to track the satellite because there's only about a 15-minute window. You got to catch them while they're actually, because all of them are up there are amateur radio. They're amateur extras it's the highest like FCC ranking for it. So like you could talk to them, but it's a lot of work to get it to. It's a lot of getting the timing just right and everything. So it's kind of
fun to do, though.
Yeah, it's he's like they get on the radio like for an hour once or twice a week. So you gotta hope that you're on the right time when they're overhead, when they're on the channel. You can talk to an astronaut in space. It's kind of cool.
Andrew, that would be really cool for a podcast.
We'll see what we can do.
That would be really cool to get them on and just record a short with them.
Just record like 5 minutes of contact with them. It would be cool. But yeah, that's the kind of. I would need a very different type. Mike's gonna let me have one if he has a bunch of like handhelds, but like in order to contact them, I would need something a little stronger than that.
Okay.
But yeah, that was my Saturday. Cool. So it's kind of like it's a weird niche thing that I got to do.
Yeah, because Brendan was like, because it is your birthday tomorrow.
Yep.
So Brendan was kind of like, oh, what are we doing for Andrew's birthday? I was like, nothing.
Yeah, like it's Holy Week and because some students were asking me, like, what do you do for birthday? I'm like, my wife and I are going to make a nice meal and I'm going to watch a movie with her. Like, I don't do much for my birthday anymore because the stuff like when I want stuff, I'm an adult. I just typically buy it or I save up for it. Like, the things I want for my birthday are either like $5 or $300 plus.
Yeah. Don't worry. We'll have a fun time next week.
Yeah. How about you? Anything else going on in your life?
Not a ton. I mean, it's just business as usual. Grad school is kind of coming to a wrap, which is why I'm also very excited to talk about today's topic, because I'm now realizing that all of this connects back to my Catholic social teaching class and my technology and society class.
Oh yeah, graduation's less than a month away.
Yeah, I ordered my cap and gown.
Miriam got hers last week.
Yep, I ordered mine on Friday, so
it takes about 2 weeks to get to you. She should have fine. How was yours cheaper than hers? Hers was like 110.
What did she order with it? Did she order a graduation packet with like announcements and stuff like that too?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, okay, it was $90 minus the tax. I didn't pay the tax on it, right? Yeah. So probably closer to 110 with tax.
Speaking of taxes,
let's get into it because I've got grad school today.
Yes, you do. So
let's take a moment to pause and thank Daddy Government.
Thanks, FDR.
Okay, so where does your tax hatred begin?
It begins with the fact that I used to work for a payroll tax company, and the fact that they exist is pointless. But no, it really comes from the past two. Like before, when I was younger, I didn't really understand taxes. I was like, oh, it's just a thing that we do. But like at the end of the year, we get money back. No, it's not how that works. Based like my dad finally explained to me when I turned 18. He's like, the ideal scenario for tax day is you owe $0 and the government owes you zero. It means you've had the amount of money supposed to have the whole time. That's how it's supposed to be. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense because otherwise, basically, we're loaning money. But for the past 2 years, we've owed the government a ton of money because for some reason, Paycor just doesn't understand how to take out the proper amount of taxes for people who work for the Catholic Church.
See, I get money back, and I have Paycor, so I do feel like I think it's something with your payroll office, and they are not doing it right.
It must be an AOD thing. I don't know what it is, but literally, both me and Miriam have had to submit things to say take more money of our paycheck. We're not claiming any independence. We're not like it. We're claiming them like the government should be taking the most out of our paychecks, and we literally have to keep telling them take an extra $50 out of our paycheck every month from now on. We've had to do it. I have to submit another one because last year we owed almost $4,000. This year we owed almost $2,000. And again, I get like, oh, they weren't taking enough money out of my tax in the first place. We work for we make no money. Combined, we make about $85,000 a year.
Which is still above the average American household, to be fair.
Yes. But we're a school teacher and a church administrative assistant, basically. Like, we're not rich by any stretch. I still have a 25, I have a 50 pack of ramen in my house, and I eat that on the regular.
Yeah. Yeah. No, taxes are such a confusing thing. Right. So my tax actually began at the young age of 2.
When were you radicalized?
I've always hated taxes because they just never made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And not like they don't make sense because I understand the federal government needs money to operate.
Does it?
My problem is with the federal government operating.
So what I'm hearing is you and I both saw the Boston Tea Party and were like, those guys really understood what taxes should be in the ocean.
Well, and what's funny is when you look at the taxes that they were having levied against them, it was like a 1 or 2% tax.
Oh yeah, the fact that the federal government takes about 20% of your paycheck, and then you have to pay in the state of Michigan an extra 6% on most goods on top of your taxed money already.
Yep.
The founding fathers were like, get the muskets.
So the average American, just over the course of right. On average, the American person pays 14% of their income to taxes, to a federal income tax. That doesn't include things like a capital gains tax. That doesn't include things to corporate taxes, anything like that. On average, the U.S. government draws in revenue approximately $2 trillion with a budget of $9 trillion. Mm-hmm. We are $7 trillion in deficit with our current budget system. 51% of all U.S. government revenue comes from your income tax.
Again, thank you, FDR.
30% of all federal revenue comes from Social Security tax,
which is a stupid payroll tax that you have to buy into. And with that, let's keep in mind that's a tax on the individual and on the business because it's 6.2% approximately from both people have to pay that. Yes. So that's double tax.
Well, yeah, because you're already being taxed on your income, and also your employer has to pay some form of income tax, some form of corporate tax.
Yep. And Medicare,
unless they are a nonprofit entity, they don't have to pay corporate tax.
Yeah, and even then, there's usually some other taxes that they have to they weasel in there.
So I did some quick maths. I'm gonna pull up my quick math. This is just on Social Security tax. This is inspired by a guy named the Fat Electrician, Nick. We love you.
Definitely hasn't radicalized me more and influenced me in any way.
But on average, the U.S. government is supposed. So this year, the U.S. government is supposed to collect $83 billion in Social Security this year.
Mhm.
The average lifetime benefits of someone on who is receiving money from Social Security, the average lifetime benefits that they will receive back is $380,000.
Okay.
Right? I didn't know this until I was doing some research. They do kind of adjust Social Security based on how much you pay in. So you might receive less than that if you paid it.
Thank God, that makes sense.
I didn't know that. I thought everybody got the same amount. So I learned something new about this. So I'm okay with the government doing that.
Well, then, oh my gosh, you pay more in, you get more, or at the end. What a concept. The fact that we assumed that they weren't doing that tells you a lot about our faith in the federal government.
So going back to this, right? The average person makes about $66,000 a year. That's what they say is the average for an individual single person.
The average, I think, I'm here to bring that average down.
The average household income is around $72,000. Yeah. According to 2021, it probably is a little higher now, but that's
adjusting for inflation and other things. Yeah,
we have the most recent data on. Is like 72,000. The average person pays in a lifetime total of $360,000. That's only a $20,000 increase. Mm-hmm. If the government implemented the plan that Nick, the fat electrician, came up with, and his numbers are actually slightly off, based on the math. If starting today, right, you've already got people in the system, okay, you can't fix it now.
Yep.
Right, the people who are in the system, who are already paying in the system, fine, whatever. Right, anyone who is born from this year on, if you deposited $1,000 into some type of investment retirement account,
401k, IRA, whatever, just a government-sponsored retirement plan,
this would be $3.6 billion. So from $834 billion to $3.6 billion.
So way less.
Because there's 3.6 million kids born on average each year in the United States. And you invested that money in a fund like the S&P 500, which annualized comes out to be about 10% annual return.
Yeah, and
adjusted for inflation.
And we also preface this. We know there's the stock market goes going up and yes, but on average, it's a safe approximate 10% increase.
If you didn't put any other money in there other than that $1,000, and they worked until they were 67, because that's the retirement age, they would have $500,000. That is a $120,000 increase from a poorly managed fund.
That every other year, every election year, they say Social Security's going to run out. We need to do something about it. Like, one, it hasn't run out. Two, let it run out and let me have control over my own money.
So I'm okay even if the government does that. Some people some people would argue I don't want the government to be involved in any type of retirement. Let people figure out their own shit. Excuse my French. But
I'll try to bleep that out.
That's fine. But that as a whole is just mind-boggling. That's just a third of the U.S. tax revenue.
Yeah. The idea that the federal government doesn't trust its constituents to prepare for their own retirement says a lot about their faith in us and a lot about our faith in them. There are people who are basically you're in one of three groups. You're what group one? The government should take care of me completely, and I'm completely reliant on it. You're screwed. Just in life, that's my thought on that. If you think that the government has to take care of you for everything, you have no idea of self-reliance. Two, I don't want the government touching anything that I own. I would rather live in the middle of nowhere. If you can do that, great, good on you. Most of us fall into camp 3 of I rely on the government for some services, but I'm also a rational human being, and I would like to have some control of my own things, and I think I can manage my own money, a little bit at least.
Well, okay, so this is interesting. So I don't know if you watched the Nick Freitas episode.
I just finished it.
So he talks about this when he talks about educating his children and homeschooling them. We are creating socialists by sending them to a public school.
Yeah, and to preface it, the example that he gives is, well, would you like state sponsored media? Absolutely not. That's horrible. That's propaganda. Okay, we're on the same page there. We don't want state run media either. Why would you say, hey, I don't trust the state to give me information exclusively. Let's send my impressionable, 7 to 18-year-old 8 hours a day there, 5 days a week for 11 to 12 years, and have a state sponsored education program impressed upon them.
But it's not even just a state sponsored program that's the issue. It's the dependency that it creates, right? Now, I fall into this weird camp where I am a conservative, but I'm a conservative in the most traditional sense of a conservative being possible.
Okay. Explain that.
So most people think conservative, they think red-blooded Americans, 18 years old, you're going to go get a job, move out of your parents' house, everything like that. That's not actually conservative. That's a liberal fascist idea. That's a liberal new age.
It's still propaganda.
It's a new age revolutionary idea, because you look at ultra conservative countries. That is not the way conservatism was ever intended. Conservatism intends the integrity of the family first and foremost as the fundamental unit of society, and that you don't stop being a part of that family when you turn 18.
Yeah. I mean, you can see that in the two of us. Like, even though you moved, you're still connected to your family. You keep in touch with them. Like, it's about like for me, we specifically moved a certain distance that way where we have some space from our family, but we see them regularly because family's important to us.
I wouldn't even argue that that's conservative. I would say that's neoliberalism. You look at these conservative countries, and I think to like some of the conservative European, Eastern European countries,
Poland,
or even some of these conservative South American countries, right? A lot of people think South America, they think liberal communist revolutions, right? And there is some sense of that, right? You go to like countries like Venezuela and stuff like that. But you go to countries like Mexico or Guatemala, right? What you have is you have 3 generations all living in the same household. Each of them have jobs, right? But it's this idea of you don't need to move out of the house, right? We are family. We take care of each other, right? It's the principle of subsidiarity.
Yeah, right? the lowest level of required intervention, basically.
Now, within that, right, you can teach your children independence while also still supporting them.
Yes. Right? For him, he said, college. I don't have a right to pay for your college. I have a duty to support you, to whatever extent that is. But I don't have to give, like, you're not given a right to go to college. Does it make sense for you? Like, I will support. He said, like, basically, I'll support what's going to help you. If I don't think going to college is going to help you, then I'm not going to support that ambition of yours.
Yeah, and to that extent, I do struggle with that statement a little bit, because I do think that college is not for everyone. And yet, however, if my child wanted to go to college, I have a duty as a parent to make sure my child does not go into financial destitution.
It's the constant balancing catch-22.
Yeah, how might I balance that? Well, that might look like balancing the way that Nick does, which is like Nick Fridas, which is like, hey, you don't need to go to college to do this. Or it looks like how Dave Ramsey would propose it, which Dave Ramsey is a fiscal conservative, right? And I would say not just a fiscal conservative, but a social conservative as well. Where he talks about like you should be setting up your child like some type of account where they can be earning money to go to college at age 18, right? And I even did math on that the other day, right? If you put $1,000 into some type of savings account, right? I think they're called 403Bs.
Each state has, like, Michigan has the Michigan Educational Savings Program. It specifically is a college saving fund.
Right. I want something independent from the state.
It's state sponsored, but it's through the bank specifically. But like,
you have to go to a state college, and
No, you don't. I used mine for Franciscan.
Interesting. Okay, a lot of those programs in Texas, you have to go to an in-state college.
Yeah, and they vary, but the idea is it's a savings account that you can't touch until you're 18, and that money has to be used for educational purposes, and it has a really good return on it, and it's very
Okay,
stable.
so
That's the
so they
idea.
do they do have individual investment accounts called a custodial account that a child can get access to at age 18, which you can have set up to go to 10% or whatever
Yeah.
percentage wise, of course. Right. But if you invested $1,000 from the moment your child was born and you put in $100 a month, on average, your child would have anywhere in the realms of $200 to $300,000
Hmm.
to go to college with.
Yeah.
That now we could talk about the ridiculous cost of college. We could
That's
like, there's
good.
a lot of,
We've already talked about it a little bit on I think episode 2 or 3.
but some of this all comes back to like government bureaucracy.
Yeah, and the idea that, and the other point he brought up is the education that your kids are getting, at regular school, and this is something I've noticed as teachers. We've noticed this: kids who are going through high school are not ready to be adults because they're not being taught the things that they need, like financial literacy. There are like at your school they have a couple of like entrepreneurial and accounting classes, stuff like that. There's 3 to 5 kids taking those classes because they don't care, or they're more concerned with how can I boost my GPA so I can go to a better college. Like that's all they're focused on. They're not focused on I want to learn real skills. One of
And
one
once
of the most
again, though,
important ones being financial literacy, understanding where your money goes, how to spend it, how to save it. No, kids don't know how to write a check, which it's an outdated thing. I'm an adult. I've been an adult for 9 years almost. I've had to write checks every month for the past 3 years.
yeah, you can. Some places like you went through someone who like preferred that, right? I pay all my rent online,
Yeah, but
right?
it's functionally like, why do we use the checks? Oh, I don't have cash on it. Like it's just things like that. Basic financial skills of understanding how investing works, where my monies go from, like where my taxes are, like breakdown of the taxes. I learned a lot of that stuff because I had a job that required me to learn that when I was at ADP. I wouldn't have known otherwise because the school certainly didn't teach me that.
No, but once again, I don't want the state teaching me or my children that because the state's going to propagandize it the way it's supposed to be.
I
And
don't
not
know.
that,
I'm saying that's an intentional thing. Like I didn't learn that in school, and that was intentional. They don't want you to know that
right.
you're getting ripped off.
But if if public schools required that you had to take a financial literacy course, they're going to propagandize it towards whatever is going to be most beneficial towards the state.
Yeah.
Um,
And we're not, again, let's preface this. We're not saying all schooling is bad.
hmm, hmm, hmm.
It's the, again, principle of subsidiarity. The state should not be the primary instructor and parent of your child. That should be
right,
you.
right. And so, like, I mean, there's a lot to say here, but to go back to taxes, right? Why do we accrue $2.2 trillion in tax revenue and then spend 9 trillion of it when you could cut down on the amount of money that you're spending towards Social Security, which is basically $1 trillion. It's shy of it by 100 billion.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. So I did some quick maths. Again, quick maths.
More quick maths.
Because we talked about, okay, what's the solution to this? And here's the problem. The systems are in place that the only way to fix it is to burn it down and establish a theocratic monarchy. But I digress. I'm a monarchist. Andrew
I'm listening.
Andrew believes in democracy.
I believe in a constitutional democratic republic.
Andrew, are you coming to my side and becoming a monarchist?
A little bit more each day. But anyways,
because people are dumb.
Oh yeah, that's like the whole reason. Like when people are like, we need more, like whenever someone says we're a democracy, I'm like, no, we're a democratic republic for a reason. The founding fathers knew, like, yes, the voice of the masses is important, but the masses are by and large dumb farmers in their time who don't understand this kind of like, who have zero education of any kind. We want to have some people who are like, it's when people open their mouths and they say something absolutely ridiculously uninformed and uneducated in any way, I get a little sad because I remember their vote counts as much as mine does.
One household, one vote.
Uh, we'll save voting for an election year episode.
Okay. So, but I did some quick maths, right? So, what's the proposed system of fixing this? So, I've talked about this in length before. A 15% flat sales tax rate
Something to
on
that extent,
all
yes.
on all consumer purchase good except for the necessities, which I would define as food and shelter.
Yeah.
Everything else I would say is a luxury.
Anything that, and also anything that the government gives you should not be taxed. Like the fact that I have to pay taxes on my water bill is ridiculous.
Yep. So food and shelter, right? So this is based on 2021, 2022 tax numbers.
Mhm.
The average person spent about $72,000. The
Makes
average
sense.
household, average U.S. household, spent about $72,000. Of that, $5,000 were spent on take-home food, meaning food you brought home, cooked yourself. I think you should be taxed on going out to dinner.
Yeah, that makes sense still. Like that's just it's a service. It's different.
24,000 was spent on housing. So 72 minus 5, 67 minus 24. We're left with about $43,000. $43,000 with approximately, gotta look up the numbers again, 131.2 million households in America times a 15% sales tax rate would net the government $846 billion.
Here's the reason.
You've just replaced Social Security.
You want to know the reason they'll never use it though? Because the current system is complicated and it works in their favor. Because currently, on average, you about 18 to 22% of your paycheck goes to taxes in some form, whether that be federal or state programs. You know, that's so already they're getting more. The state and federal feds are getting more than the 15% right there. But then you go and you spend money on things like in Michigan, we have a 6% sales tax on basically everything that's not food. That's 6% more to the government right there. Capital gains. There's all these other programs that are set in place to basically they're there. It's there to squeeze you for every drop they can get, and it's complicated. So basically, the 0.1%. The everyone says tax the rich. The rich pay a crap ton of money in taxes. They would be paying more with a base sales tax, a flat sales tax, because let's say it's 10%. 10% of a $1 candy bar is 10 cents.
10 cents.
10% of a $1 million yacht is $100 million. Or sorry, it's $100,000. Sorry, I can't math. It's too early still. But like that's like, but if it's but with a complicated tax code, it becomes, well, I can write off a certain portion of that. It becomes this whole thing. No, make it the tax code. The fact that every state has their own tax code that's about this thick, and whenever you get into more niche things like, the ATF, marijuana, medical devices, all these different things, there's other tax regulations that are just as thick because it's in the government's interest to keep it complicated and difficult for you to understand. That's why we pay people like our friend, who we won't name, to tell us how the tax code works.
Well, and to be honest, a complicated tax code does not benefit the average working person.
No, it absolutely does not. It only benefits the very, very rich and the tax, and not the IRS, like H&R Block and TurboTax and stuff like that, because those are a $4 billion industry, which is in the IRS's interest to keep as a $4 billion industry, because that's $4 more billion that they can tax on us.
Right. And some people will be like, and I don't want to punish the billionaires for figuring out a way around the tax code.
No, I mean,
good job.
They took the risk to make a ton of, and the reward is making a ton of money. If they are able to find a way to keep more of their money, they're being smart about it.
Right. And because we do have a variable tax rate, right, here in the United States, the higher incomes earners pay about 33% of their income.
Yeah.
If they can dwindle that down to the average man's tax bracket, Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. I'm not gonna knock them for it.
Again,
But
people get mad because they do well. Like,
if everybody paid 15%, not only is it equitable and fair, now you have a system where it comes out to where, people are, having more money to spend more money in their pocket.
yeah, if I like, again, the fact that 20% of my paycheck goes to government programs that, God
I
forbid,
don't support.
well, even that, God forbid, like, let's say something happens where I die before my birthday tomorrow. I've just spent the past 9 years paying into a system that I'm never going to benefit from.
Your wife would benefit. She would get the equivalent amount of probably around $1,000 a month for the next 10 years.
I would rather it be something where it's, because I don't understand and how that part would work, but it makes sense to me. It makes more sense to me that, okay, I have put my money into a retirement account. I am deceased. My wife is the benefactor of all of my assets. She either can just cash out that account or just like, she has access to that account and she can continue to put money in. So when she retires, she has access to, like, it just makes sense. Again, subsidiarity. The fact that the government has to be a middleman for everything that I do is ridiculous.
If the beneficiary is under the age of the retirement age, they couldn't cash it out, I don't think, but yes.
There's usually a stipulation for, change of life clause, like, oh, that person's life is gone, you can, it would be taxed, but she could take out the money that's in my account. It would be heavily taxed because
but with the Social Security system, and this is one of the nice things, right? If you find yourself long-term disabled, where you can't keep working unless you need that income, or you decease, you do get some of that. You do get your money that you put in, plus their $20,000 that they stole from you, that you could have put into the stock market and gotten $100,000 to $20,000 return.
It's more it again, the fact that the government has to be like, I have to go to the government and say, can I please have my money, just seems, it seems like it, like, again, it's creating a system where we are reliant on this big entity for no reason other than they say we have to.
Well, and so this is the dilemma, right? That we find ourselves in, right? You have socialism, right? Socialism makes the state, the government, the ruling authority, and the arbitrator of truth and justice.
Yep.
Socialism says the state is going to get you to where you need to go.
It's the only way that you need and the only way you can take.
Fascism, which is on the other end of the spectrum. So you've got socialism, which is like, hey, the state's going to provide for all of your needs. Fascism says, well, the people will. And by the people, I mean the ethnic people. Right? So this is like Nazism. Nazism was like, oh, the ethnicity, the people, right? Mussolini, the Italian people. Not the Italian government, the people will be the ruling authority and power. It's that middle ground where Catholicism stands, which is like, no, you are an independent person. You have to make a free will choice. The government exists, the people exist, families exist, all these things, right? And the Catholic Church solidly sits in the middle and says, the government is not the thing that dictates your life. The people is not the things that dictate your life. It's God and your choices based on his plan for your life. And when you have a state-sponsored program of taxes and, not saying all taxes are bad, taxes are necessary.
Again, I understand that taxes, as a general rule, are required for a government to exist. Like you said at the beginning, do we like the federal government? My answer is buy it every day, less and less, because we can talk about government. If you want, let's get political for a second. The Department of Government Efficiency. They're finding like the federal government is only funded basically by our tax dollars, by and large. In some capacity or another, it's by our tax dollars. So if I'm paying the government, it's if I pay a contractor to do work on my house, the expectation is that the $2,000 that I give him to fix something is gonna be spent on material and labor to fix the thing, and then he makes a small profit off of it. In that analogy, sure. But the idea is that he's using the money for things for my project. When you have the Department of Government Efficiency going through and saying, are you adding benefit to this system that people are paying you for? If the answer to that is no, we shouldn't be spending money on it. That's how I feel. That's how I feel like that's where people are, people are saying, oh, they're cutting things that are necessary. Is it necessary? When he said, when there was that, this was, we're, 5 months behind the trend or whatever, but when there's that email that sent out said, I need you to tell me 5 things that you did today, this week, I was like, if I can't tell my boss 5 things that I did, I would be fired. I'm not adding, they're literally throwing money at me for no value. If you work for one of the biggest industries in the world, the US government, and you can't tell me 5 things that you did that week, get out of my house. Go.
Well, and the US government, right, was never designed to have a bureaucracy.
No, it wasn't.
It was designed to be a system of public service. I remember Nick was talking about this on the Unsubscribed podcast. He said, I think they should be having to live in barracks and they should be making no money.
You should make it. I mean, it was intended to be a part-time job that you did for what, during, it was 60. Yeah, even less than that. It was 90 days on certain years and 60 days on other. It was literally a small portion of your time was supposed to be spent in DC or in your state capital doing work for the people, and then you would go back to your regular job. The idea of a career politician is ridiculous. Because they spend so much of their time focusing on getting reelected because that's their job. That's their income, is being a politician. They don't spend any time actually doing the work of the public.
This is why more and more, and right, I love my church job. I know you love your church job. Right, but more and more I dream every day of wanting to just branch out and do something entrepreneurial. Because I do believe that was the intentions of the founding fathers. Right? Now, if I did something entrepreneurial, I think it would still be church work.
It'd be religious based at the very least.
It would be something like this, or where I go full-time content creation and I figure out how to make it work, or I start my own ministry consulting organization, or doing parish missions and stuff like that, or even just opening the Spud, the potato-based food truck.
But the more that I see bureaucracy in general, and that's not just a government thing. That's at any level.
I heard church bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I hate government bureaucracy. I hate church bureaucracy. I hate organizational bureaucracy.
It's not the way man was supposed to live and act.
It prevents man from working. And what bureaucracy ends up doing is it creates a system whereby I have no agency over my situation, which is countercultural to the freedom of goodwill, countercultural to the idea of free will. Mm-hmm. Right? And so we're trapped behind bureaucracy, which is this invisible technology that prevents me from achieving life. And to go to my technology and society class, it has made, rather than the technology fitting into the current culture, it tells the technology tells the culture, I'm going to tell you how to live and how to act.
Yep.
And thus we have entered into a technopoly.
Every time you say technopoly, drink. Miriam hates that word. She despises.
I know she does. I think this is the most fun I've ever had in a class.
But no, everything you're saying, again,
Ted Kaczynski might have been right.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. For legal reasons, that's a joke. But yeah,
you have that Michigan State.
I forgot about that. But no,
where did you get radicalized? Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Well, most people are radicalized at their home state, and then they turn it up in Ann Arbor. But usually it's in the other direction. Anyway, Um, yeah, the fact that we could this is about tax, but we're getting to government in general. But like the idea that the ATF, like I'm gonna go into ATF here because shout out Grizzly. Um, the fact that the ATF was born to create as a regulatory and like an enforcement industry for like arm of the Department of Treasury. Their idea is like, yeah, we're going to collect the taxes for alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and eventually explosives. All the fun things in life. They've decided we're also going to become a body that creates laws and we're going to interpret our own laws. Like, no, that's literally the opposite of what you're like. Government's supposed to have three things: create laws, enforce laws, and interpret those laws. They decided we're going to be all three. And finally they're making some adjustments to what that looks like, but that the fact that depends on which person is in the Oval Office shows that bureaucracy doesn't work, because it just power begets more power. They just want more power. And the fact that I have to, like, there's an agency that's going to tell me that, actually real quick, because this just came up in another Discord that I'm in. The ATF, so a Scorpion pistol, it's a machine pistol.
Yep.
The ATF just released a statement from 2023. It is a short-barreled rifle and a pistol at the same time. It's Schrodinger's Scorpion, because they can't get it to stick one way or another, so they're going to say it's both when those are contrary, like, definitions. Their own definitions contradict that statement of each other.
It's a pistol.
Yeah, it's a pistol, but they're saying it's also a short barrel rifle. But their definitions of what a short barrel rifle and what a pistol is are contrary to each other, knowing, as it should be. They should be separate things. But the fact that they contradict each other, they're saying it's both because they want to have more influence and power.
Well, and that's the thing, is socialism hands all the power to the government. And what are our systems of power today? Our systems of power are money. Our systems of power are governmental authority. Our systems of power are bureaucracy. And power's not a bad thing. But I think this has got to be the ending note, because I have to get to class soon.
Yeah.
But power's not a bad thing. But power, when it's used to dominate others, is tyranny. But power, when it's put at the service of others, leads to freedom.
Yeah. When people in power are afraid of losing their power, we get tyranny. We get overreach. Look, to get biblical, the people were afraid that people in power for the Jewish community were afraid of what Jesus was going to do, so they killed him for it, because he was going to undermine their authority. And he was very good at it, because their authority was given to them by God, and they thought it was given to them by each other.
But what's funny is the person who had the most power put it at service of others, and that is what we call love.
Yeah.
And until politicians, right, and this is something I talk to students about all the time, until you use your power and authority to love others, you are going to be a tyrant.
Absolutely.
So, Andrew, this was fun. How are you going deeper this week?
I'm finishing Holy Week strong, man. I have been on it with my overall, Lent stumble every now and then. I've been pretty on it with my workouts. I've been much more on it about making sure I'm learning more. I'm cruising through my Tom Selleck book, listening to the Unsubscribe and all of them, but like just trying to learn more. And spiritually, I've been really, like, I did change it. I switched my reflection to just going through the stations, man. Every time I hear the stations, it's just getting me. And Good Friday, I know it sounds weird. I'm excited for Good Friday.
Stations every Friday?
At least once a week. At least once a week, because we do it. We have different days that we do it. But yeah.
Oh no, I mean stations every Friday after Lent's over.
There's a chance. There's or at least once a week. But yeah, I've been really walking the way of the cross, and I'm really digging it.
I love that for you. Yeah.
How about you, man? What's your Holy Week plan as far as personal, getting down and dirty with it?
I mean, I'm trying to fast Thursday night, Friday, Saturday until Easter Vigil. But other than that, I'm making a point to go to all the liturgies this week. So
they should be holy days of obligation. Change my mind.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that
We can have a whole episode on this, but I think that we don't have enough obligation in the church. The fact that people ask me what's the minimum number of times I need to go to mass so I can get my kid confirmed, then they are surprised when I say the answer is every Sunday. That's a problem.
I got a book for you to read. All right.
All right. With that, thank you all for listening to our rant. We hope that you comment below how you were radicalized and if it was this episode.
Tell me below if you want to learn how to commit tax fraud.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. But for real. But no, like if you like, comment below it when whatever platform you're listening to this on, what your thoughts are.
Comment below taxation is theft. Also, comment below what Andrew should write on his tax check for not this year but next year.
For next year. And if you want to donate to the Andrew is poor because the government is stupid fund, I'll give you my PayPal.
Patreon, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'll give you my PayPal. Shoot, whatever. But no, for real. Thank you for listening to our ramblings, our rants.
Like, subscribe, and comment. And
yes.
hit that notification bell so that way you get notified anytime we drop a new video.
For real though, like we want to get on your algorithm. Do it, please. With that, thank you so much for listening.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Peace, love, and tranquility. May the Lord give you everything you deserve today.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of property.